Hope you got bookmarks. Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Put a marker in Matthew 17. Put a marker in Mark 9. And if you have another marker, you can put it in Luke 9. So what I'm going to do first, and you don't, if you follow along, you'll get, well, you could, but it's going to be kind of different. I took, for the first portion, I took Mark and Matthew and I put them together. Okay? I blended them together. So it's Mark 9, starting in verse 2, Matthew 17, starting at verse 1. And it's the first 8 verses of both of those books, but I put them together. Okay?
Mark what?
Mark 9, 2 through 8. Matthew 17, 1 through 8. So I'm going to read the blended version. Okay? I know. But keep your finger in Luke 9 because we're going to go there next. Yeah, you need some bookmarks? All right. 6 days later, so we're after, what, the feeding of the 4,000. We're after the movement, shortly thereafter, okay? 6 days later, Yeshua took Kepha, Yaakov, and his brother Yohanan and led them up on a high mountain privately. Speculation. They're in the Galilee, northern. The Galilee isn't just around the Sea of Galilee, it's the whole northern section up at the Sea of Galilee. So you could really go cross all the way over to Haifa there, which is this. Can you see it, Linda? There's Haifa here. If you see, it goes all the way across, almost equal with Tiberias, which is on the lake, Sea of Galilee. All of that northern area is considered the Galilee region. Okay, so when it talks about that, that's what it's talking about. But so is also over here on the east, and there's Mount Hermon there. That's like a huge mountain. But then you've got mountains in here too. You've got Tabor, you've got high mountains, okay? Typically, though, he's been up in this region, and where he was with the 4,000, he was back up in this region. So when it says 6 days later, could he have traveled to any of these mountains? Yeah. Could it possibly be Mount Hermon? That's probably the highest mountain there, possibly. Okay. I mean, he's been there before with Peter, right? He made a statement, so it's a high mountain. But, high places, mountains represent high places where you go meet God. We want mountaintop experiences, right? Well, we're getting ready for one right here. And as they watched, keep note of that, and as they watched, he began to change form. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white as light, wiser than anyone in the world could possibly bleach them. Then they, Yeshua, Kepha, Yaakov, okay, and Yohanan, saw Eliyahu with Moses. I've read it at points in time that he saw Eliyahu and Moses. No, they saw Eliyahu with Moses, speaking with Yeshua. Kepha said to Yeshua, it's good, but let me stop here for a second. We're not supposed to talk to the dead, right?
So their life is not dead.
Thank you.
They are dead.
I wonder, how in the world could Eliyahu and Moses be alive at the same time? Did Moses have some experiences on a mountain for 40 days in the presence of God? God lives outside of time. God lives outside of our confines. So when he's in God's presence, God could have plugged him in any portion. God sees the beginning of your life at the same time he sees the end of your life. And before you were ever born, generations ago, he can see Adam and he can see the end, all at the same time. Did Elijah, not also have a moment where he went down to the same mountain that Moses was? He did. He traveled all the way down there and spent time. Wow. So did Paul. Wow. Okay. They're not dead. Of course, to be absent, they're living in his presence anyway, right? Okay. So they saw Eliyahu with Moses speaking with Yeshua. And then Kepha said to Yeshua, it's good that we were here, Lord. One version says Lord, one says Rabbi. they're both titles of respect. Doesn't really matter. One version says, let's put up, and the other version says, Peter says, I'll put up 3 shelters, sukkahs, if you want. One for you, one for Moshe, one for Eliyahu. Peter, Kepha, didn't know what to say because they were all so frightened. Here's a hint. If you're scared, if you don't know what to say,
Bite your tongue.
Swallow the blood.
shut your mouth. You know, sometimes when we're confronted with something and we're like, we're frightened, we just talk. No, we need to do the opposite. We just need to be
Still.
quiet and be still. Yeah. While he, Kepha, Peter, was still speaking, a bright cloud enveloped them, and a voice out of the cloud said, "This is my son, whom I love, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the Talmudim heard this, they were so frightened that they fell down on the ground. But Yeshua came and touched them. "Get up," he said, "don't be afraid." So they opened their eyes. Suddenly, when they looked up, they no longer saw anyone with them except Yeshua by himself. That's the two blended together because they were very similar, okay? But now I want to take you to Luke, so now you can open up. We'll go to Luke. Chapter 9. This one's interesting. Whoops, I need to get to the right book. And I'm going to start at verse 28. About a week after Yeshua said these things, he took Kepha, Yohanan, and Yaakov with him and went up to the hill country to pray. Oh, up to the hill country. Well, up, it didn't say up to Jerusalem, so it could be north, it could be Hermon, we don't know. And as he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothing became gleaming white. Suddenly, there were 2 men talking with him, Moshe and Eliyahu. They appeared in glorious splendor and spoke of his exodus, which he was soon to accomplish in Jerusalem. Is that an important detail to have? Yeah. That totally makes Mark and Matthew different, doesn't it? You know, because you're like, well, why? Because you read it, why? Why was it Eliyahu and why was it Moses? Why was it Moshe? You know, he says to them all the time, Moshe and the prophets, the Torah, the writer of Torah is Moses, and the prophets speak of me. Well, they've been having encounters with him. Of course they're going to be talking about him, right? Okay. I just find all this so, wow, you know? You know, and he speaks one time where he says, Abraham, before I knew it. How do you know Abraham? Well, hello? He knows Moses and Eliyahu too. He knows, he knows. Okay. They appeared in glorious splendor and spoke of his exodus, which he was soon to accomplish in Jerusalem. Kepha and those with him had been sound asleep. You see a pattern here? We're going to see it later on too, right? He's off. They don't know what's coming, and it's not intense to them yet. They're not aware. And you're like, how could they not be? Well, hold on to that. He's going to answer you here in a minute. But on becoming fully awake, they saw his glory and the 2 men standing with him. As the men were leaving Yeshua, so that would be as Eliyahu and Moshe were leaving, right? Kepha said to him, not knowing what he was saying. In other words, again, I tell you, keep your mouth shut sometimes, right? Yeah, it's impulsive. Or, you know, when you're in fear, sometimes you just practice. Practice biting the tongue and pressing your lips together, right? Okay. As the men were leaving Yeshua, Kepha said to him, not knowing what he was saying, "It's good that we were here, Rabbi. Let's put up 3 shelters, sukkah. One for you, one for Moshe, one for Eliyahu." Saying, as he spoke, a cloud came and enveloped them, and they were frightened as they entered the cloud. Oh, a cloud like Moses' cloud? Oh, you know, when that cloud descended on Mount Sinai with Moshe, and a voice came out of the cloud saying, "This is my son whom I have chosen. Listen to him." And when the voice spoke, Yeshua was alone once more. They kept quiet at that time. They told no one anything of what they had seen. There was a why didn't they know?
Because they weren't supposed to.
They weren't supposed to. You know, there's that spot where it says, where I pray all the time, when you come in contact with people and they're not listening, they can't hear you. Maybe we need to say, Abba, give them eyes to see and ears to hear and hearts to comprehend. Why? Because he gave them a deluding spirit.
Mm-hmm.
If you choose to negate, if you choose to deny, or you choose to turn a deaf ear over and over and over again, he's going to say, okay, and turn you over to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a deluding, right, spirit, they'll be under a delusion. So if you come in contact with them and you know you're supposed to share with them, ask God, give them eyes to see and ears to hear and a heart to comprehend what is being spoken.
Mm-hmm.
You remove the spirit of delusion you put on them, release them from it right now and let them hear. Pierce their hearts. You see what I'm saying? Take
Sometimes it's God's mercy
Yeah.
too. Sometimes you're not supposed to know.
Oh yeah. Sometimes there's
Right
things that
now.
you're not supposed to know. True.
The
Because
time
you're-
will
and you're not
come,
ready
but
for it.
Not right now.
Yeah. You know, we learn line upon line,
Mm-hmm.
and we learn by experiences. Precept upon precept. We don't. It's like when we come to, you know, when people come to Yeshua, and we're like, well, they're believers now. They should. You can't take a full download. You're going to melt in the pavement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can't handle that much information. You can't handle that much knowledge. He's going to teach you. It's like a child. A child learns a little at a time. A little at a time. You know, Charlie is now, she puts one toy away. Nope, you put that one away before you do this. And she's learned, she couldn't do that months ago. She was too young. It wasn't there. But now that she's learned how to pick up, now that she's learned how to do this, now that her language is better, now that her comprehension is, she's much more mobile. You see all the pieces fall into place, and you can now exercise. So we can exercise our faith as it grows. So we can't have a full download. We couldn't handle it. We just couldn't. Maybe that's why it's going to take 1,000 years to get back to, because we can't handle it, you know? Mark 9. And I'm going to start at verse 9. As they came down the mountain, he warned them not to tell anyone what they had seen until after the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, but they continued asking each other, what is this rising from the dead? They also asked him, why did the Torah teachers say that Eliyahu has to come first? Eliyahu will indeed come first, he answered, and he will restore everything. Nevertheless, why is it written in the Tanakh that the Son of Man must suffer much and be rejected? There's more to it. See, you just told them, there's more to it. I tell you that Eliyahu has come, and they did whatever they pleased to him, just as the Tanakh says about him. Okay, bookmark, go to Matthew. We're going to read the same account, okay? Verse 9, Matthew 17, 9. As they came down the mountain, Yeshua ordered them, don't tell anyone that what you have seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. Isn't it interesting? One said had been raised, and the other one says has been, living. The Talmudim asked him, then why do the Torah teachers say that Eliyahu must come first? And he answers, on the one hand, Eliyahu is coming. Oh, okay, we didn't have that before, right? And will restore all things. On the other hand, it's so Jewish. On the one hand, he has come. On the other hand, so Jewish, right? You've got what do we hear? The joke is that if you have two Jews, you have 3 opinions. Okay, all right. I have conversations with myself and contradict myself all the time, so it's possible. It can be done. It can be done. On the one hand, he says, Eliyahu is coming and will restore all things. On the other hand, I tell you that Eliyahu has come already, and people did not recognize him, but did whatever they pleased to him. In the same way, the Son of Man too is about to suffer at their hands. And then the Talmudim understood that he was talking to them about Yohanan the Immerser. But they still didn't understand that he was talking what he said about them, because they kept saying, what is this rising from the dead? When you read the accounts, what is this? They still didn't get it. Why? It's not time for them to understand it yet. Okay? It's not. Okay, back to Mark, because this account is the same, but the wording's different. You get different pieces. Okay? Mark 9:14. When they, so that would be Peter, James, John, Yeshua, right? Okay. When they got back to the Talmudim, they saw a large crowd around them and some Torah teachers arguing with them. As soon as the crowd saw him, they were surprised and they ran out to greet him. And he asked them, what's this discussion about? Like he didn't know. One of the crowd gave him the answer, Rabbi, I brought my son to you because he has an evil spirit in him that makes him unable to talk. Whenever it seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, grinds his teeth, and becomes stiff all over. And I asked your Talmudim to drive the spirit out, but they couldn't do it. People without any trust, he responded. How long will I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring him to me. Trust, faith in God. Do you not know who God is? Abba? Yeah. They brought the boy to him, and as soon as the spirit saw him, it threw the boy into a convulsion. Yeshua asked the boy's father, how long has this been happening to him? Ever since childhood, he said. And it often tries to kill him by throwing him into the fire or into the water. But if you can do anything, have pity on us and help us. Yeshua said to him, what do you mean if? If you can. It's like, can you not just sense and feel the, what? Really? Kind of like last night. You have no idea. Oh, really? And I just let her go on. And then okay. That kind of sense. All right. He says, what do you mean, if you can? Everything is possible to someone who has trust. And instantly, the father of the child exclaimed, this is one of my favorite passages because it gives me so much hope. I do trust. Help my lack of trust. You know, one version we learned it in was, I believe. Help now my unbelief. Okay? You can believe and still not comprehend fully how much you should believe. And so what he's saying is, I trust. Help. I have just a little bit, but I believe. Help the rest of me believe. In my unbelief, I believe what I know to be true. Help me. Okay? That's all it takes. That's all it takes.
From here to here.
Oh yeah, and from here to here. Okay? And the more, it was like today when we were reading and love your neighbor as yourself. The closer we get to him, the more trust we have, the more faith we have, the more confidence we have, right? Yeah. Okay. I do trust. Help my lack of trust. And when Yeshua saw that the crowd was closing in on them, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to it, did he do a song and dance and smoke and say a certain formula? No, it's not necessary even today. Just saying. When Yeshua saw it, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to it, you deaf and dumb spirit, I command you, come out of him and never go back into him again. Oh, maybe we should add that when we say something. And don't come back, ever. Right? Because if you leave a clean vessel and it's not full. So first of all, let's be like Paul and have wisdom. Let's fill up the vessel before we rebuke something. Don't just arbitrarily rebuke something. You're going to make the situation worse, right? So let's fill them up. And then when we do have to take authority, and don't come back.
Yeah, don't let that one come back.
Don't come back. And don't bring your friends. And don't send them either. Just saying. Shrieking and throwing the boy into a violent fit, it came out. So when it comes out, something physical is going to happen. Okay? It's either, they're either going to fall down, or they're going to sit down, or they're going to be like, what? There will be a physical sign that something spiritually happened and left. And it might be subtle. Watch for it. It'll happen. But it came out, right? It came out. The boy lay there like a corpse, so that most of the people said he was dead. But Yeshua took him by the hand and raised him to his feet, and he stood up. Matthew. I think there's a little, I know it's crazy, but there's a little bit of a difference in Matthew. Matthew 17. Verse 14. As they came to the crowd, a man approached, kneeled down in front of him, and he said, "Sir, have mercy on my son because he's an epileptic." He identified epilepsy. Why? Didn't he describe it in Mark? He throws him down in fits. That's like an epileptic, right? So it's the same account. Okay? This one doesn't identify deaf and dumb, because in this particular account, what stood out to Matthew was the fits. And it manifested, right? Did it not manifest in that capacity in front of them? Yeah. So that's what his account was. Does that mean one of them's wrong? No. They're giving you different perspectives. They're not giving you a word by word, blow by blow, 100%. They're giving you a perspective. They're giving you a slice of a piece of what they saw from a different point of view. Okay? All right. "Sir, have mercy on my son because he is an epileptic and has such terrible fits that he often falls into the fire or into the water. I brought him to your Talmudim, but they couldn't heal him." And Yeshua said, listen to this, "Perverted people without any trust." Let's stop. Perverted. It just so happens I happened to go look that word up. To distort, turn aside. Opposite against the purposes and plans of God. Just turn aside from the right path, to pervert, to corrupt. In other words, you've missed it. That's in opposition to the plans and purposes of my Father. You perverted people. You who have, your paths have been diverted. You're opposed. You're on the opposing side of path. You have been diverted, right? Against the plans and purposes of my Father. Without any trust. What is trust? Belief. Confidence. Faith. You know, my new definition, the more we learn about trust, the more we learn about faith, the more we learn about believe, the more I've drawn closer to Stephen in full confidence. You get to that place where I'm confident. I'm not moving. You know, when we're testing our faith, when we're learning to walk in faith, when we're learning to walk in trust, when we're saying I believe, we waver and our faults waver, and sometimes we step off the path, and sometimes both feet get off the path, and sometimes we stumble and fall, but we stand back up. But the more we walk in faith, the more we exercise our faith, we get to a place of confidence where, no, I'm standing. And maybe like Peter, who should have kept his mouth shut when he was frightened and didn't know what to, when you don't know what to say, don't say nothing. Even in grief, we were talking about grief. Even in grief, when someone is in grief, don't say anything. You can't possibly, well, reread that section. You have a glimpse. You have a sliver of what he's feeling.
But there are no words of comfort.
There are no words of comfort. The best thing this woman ever did for me was just to be. She said nothing. And I would sit at her counter. I wasn't eating. And she would cut fruit or something, whatever she had, and she'd cut it in front of her, you know, across from the little box. And slowly but surely, every once in a while, she just pushed it a little. She didn't shove it all the way across. That would have been too obvious. I can still see it. She just slowly pushed it, and then she pushed it a little farther, and then she pushed it a little farther until it was in front of me, and absent-mindedly, I was just picking it up and eating. She said nothing. Shoot. I probably sat there for hours at times, didn't I? I don't know.
But I was always in the kitchen. So
Time was
fine.
meaningless to me, okay? She said nothing. She did everything. I was comforted. I was fed. So we don't have to say anything. We don't have to say a word. Just be. what was that one song we did last week?
Just
Breathe. Yeah, just breathe. But then it says sometimes just be. Okay? All right. Oh, how did we get there from that? I don't know. Trust, confidence. Okay? Confidence. Have confidence. So the more our faith is tested, the more our belief, the more the more confident you are. And like Stephen was in full confidence. He didn't, I don't believe he felt those stones. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, maybe I'm out of my mind. But he was so focused. And he looked up, he saw. When you're that focused, it doesn't matter what's happening around you. Okay? That's confidence. So let's have so much confidence that we stand. So, and that's where I got there. So just like not speaking a word, we don't have to move either. Sometimes not moving is going forward. You're making strides because you're standing your ground. You're not going backwards. Okay? Don't turn around, don't run, don't leave, don't step off, don't stumble. Stand. Confidence. Trust. Okay. Where am I? You perverted people without any trust. How long will I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Meaning your lack of trust. Bring him here to me. And Yeshua rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, so that from that moment on he was healed. Same story. Different details. Okay? It's in Luke too. I'm not going to read Luke, but it's in Luke 9, and it's verses 37 through 43. I'll write them all down so you'll have them later. So let's go back to Mark. Mark 9, verses 28 and 29. After Yeshua had gone indoors. So this is obviously a place where he's at quite a bit, right? He's got a home base. We know that he's had a home base like in the Capernaum area. Okay? He did. So doesn't it make sense that the mountain would be close to Capernaum, which is north? See where the little red tag is? That's Capernaum. See the other red tag way over there? That's Mount Hermon. All right, so, but there's also mountains to the west side of Capernaum, all right, the hill country. So it could have been anywhere. All right, verse 28 again. After Yeshua had gone indoors, his Talmudim asked privately, why couldn't we drive it out? And he said to them, this kind of spirit that can be driven out only by prayer. Let's go to Matthew 17, verse 19. Then the Talmudim went to him privately. Same story. Why couldn't we drive it out? Same story, same question. He said to them, because you have such little trust. Yeah, faith, trust, yes. Faith, trust, belief, confidence in who I am. Not me. I don't have faith in my own faith of him. I have faith in him. Okay. He said to them, because you have such little trust, yes, I tell you that if you have trust as tiny as a mustard seed, you will be able to say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will be moved. Indeed, nothing will be impossible for you. There are some transcripts that say this kind doesn't go out through prayer and fasting. It's not in all transcripts. It's not in, manuscripts, thank you. I was looking, I had the wrong word, manuscripts. And it's not in some of the oldest ones. Therefore, if it's not there, it could have been an addition because it was we don't know. So we'll just leave it at prayer. From Mark said prayer, and this one says faith, right? Does it mean that I can physically go tell a mountain, hey mountain, I want you to move over to there? That's not what he's talking about. That's not what he's talking about. Okay? But you don't think the Red Sea wasn't a mountain? And it parted. Oh. It means obstacle. If there's an obstacle, something in your path, he was already prayed up. He doesn't mean he stopped and spent hours in prayer. He was prayed up. In other words, prayer is consistent. Prayer is constant. And if you're prayed up, which is why I was able to give an answer last night. It was late in the day. But my my quiet was way earlier. You see what I'm saying? So that you're ready. Be ready in season and out. Be ready to give an account. So it's with trust and it's with faith. So that when you ask, when this one had cancer, we prayed, God, we know you can. But then something changed. No, you have. You will. It's a different prayer. I know you can. I know you are. Two different prayers. Two completely different prayers. We prayed. I heard come out of my mouth, we know you can. We know you're able. And then it very quickly changed to, thank you for doing. He did. We need to ask. That's not my point, but they're two different things. Okay? They're two very different things. And before she went through treatment, she was healed. But we knew, we both were, we didn't even have major discussions. We just knew. And we both knew the same thing, that we were to go. And it was we were to go.
We were their sunshine.
Yes, that's right. We brought joy
Yes, we
and
did.
laughter.
And snacks.
And snacks.
We did.
and astonishment at times. So, yeah. So whatever his plan or purpose was, he had a plan and a purpose. So it went from, we know you can, to you have, and thank you. Okay? Just like Peter and John later in Acts. I don't have silver and gold, but what I have. And you can look and intently. You can know and hear from him whether you're supposed to do something or not. Okay? You can. That also comes with time. See, I'm preaching to the choir here. You all know that. All right. Okay, let me go to, I'm there already. In a minute. Mark 9, verse 30. After leaving that place, they went on through the Galilee. Yeshua didn't want anyone to know because he was teaching his Talmudim. He told them, the Son of Man will be betrayed into the hands of men who will put him to death. But after he has been killed, 3 days later, he will rise. But they didn't understand what he meant, and they were afraid to ask. And you're thinking, well, but it was clear, right? Now, let's turn to Luke. Luke is going to give you a totally different perspective. Luke 9:44. One verse. Well, two verses, 44 and 45. Listen very carefully to what I am saying. This is Yeshua talking. The Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men. But they didn't understand what he meant by this. So why would he tell? He knows that they don't understand. Okay, he knows. Don't jump ahead. He knows. So why would he tell them, listen very carefully to what I'm saying? Because if I say to you, listen, and you don't have understanding, your eyes aren't open, you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm in the kitchen, I'm teaching somebody something, pay attention to what I'm telling you, you're going to do it like this. They have no understanding, they have no experience, there's nothing to base it on, they don't know where I'm going, but they're paying attention, and they're going to file it. So that later, oh, that's why he's telling them. Okay? And it's because we shouldn't be reading this going, well, they didn't do what he said. Yeah, they did. He said, listen. He didn't say understand. He didn't say comprehend. He said, listen, pay attention. Okay? It's just like with John. Pay attention. Because, the not quite 2-year-old can't fully comprehend everything I'm teaching her. Shoot, some of the things I'm just now learning. But she can still pay attention. And she can still learn. And when I tell her, then later down the road, maybe when I tell her no from here, if she's walking out the street and I holler no, she stops. Right? Same kind of thing. Okay. All right. Listen very carefully to what I'm saying, or going to say. The Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men. But they didn't understand what he meant by this. It had been concealed from them so that they would not grasp its meaning, and they were afraid to ask him about it. Only this time, they kept their mouths shut. Okay? So, it goes with everything we've been talking, the revealing of things. Not everything do we know when we're walking through. Most times, I was going to say sometimes. Most times when I walk through things or have walked in the past through things, I don't comprehend what I'm walking through. I don't comprehend why. I don't comprehend the lesson I'm supposed to learn. I don't get it.
And we tell him so.
Yes! We're really good at telling him so. And he's like, it's okay, kid. Come on, keep
You'll
coming.
see.
Keep coming. That's right. Come and see. Come and see. Come on. Just keep coming. Just keep coming.
That's where faith comes in.
Yeah. You know, it's like kids
grows
walking
with
across a log across the river. You can do it. Just one step. Just trust. Just listen to my voice. I was teaching 2 young men something, and I said, if you do exactly what I tell you, it'll be okay. If you do exactly what I tell you, it'll be good. You don't understand why I'm telling you, but if you do exactly what I tell you, you don't understand the mechanics of it, but if you do exactly what I tell you, it'll be better. And it was. Same thing. And even at our age, same thing. We're still learning. We're still getting it. So give us eyes to see and ears to hear and hearts to comprehend. And Abba, thank you for those times when you didn't answer that prayer because we couldn't have handled it. Why? I cried out. I couldn't comprehend. What I didn't read to you was the paper that I wrote before that one. And in that paper, I had walked through hell. We call it Sneed because it's an identification marker as to what it was. And the last line in that writing was hell. I had walked through hell, and I didn't ever want to walk there again. But something worse was coming. Had I not walked through the hell of Sneed, and that was hell, I would not have been able to walk through what I read you. There's no way. Would never have happened. I wouldn't have had experience. I wouldn't have had the ability to look back on the hell I walked through and he was there with me and saw me through. I wouldn't have had that. So, and it was hell. That was hell. Very few people walk through things like that and survive. But it prepared me for what I was going to have to walk through. But I didn't know that at the time. And if you'd have showed me that, I'd have said, I'm out. I'm out. So thank you, Abba, for the times that you don't tell us, even when we ask. Yet your will be done. Always close with that. Always pray. Your will be done. I'm asking, because we're told to ask. Nevertheless, your will be done, and I'm going to trust that you're going to answer me according to your will and purpose, not my wants and desires. And it doesn't look good. I mean, it did. It's like you could not have convinced me walking through Sneed or even afterwards that was a good thing and that it had a good purpose. You couldn't have convinced me of that. No way. No way. And yet, I can look back on that experience and say, thank you. Thank you, Abba. That's healing. That's healing. And when you can thank him for it, then you're at the place where you're not only healed, but now you can use it in ministry. So the hells you walk through, the trials that you walk through, until you get to the place where you thank him for them, you've walked through it, it's not useful. Okay? It's not useful. You've got to be able to use it and minister to other people. And that's faith and confidence. That's full faith and confidence and trust. And walking where he says, see, I had no idea why I should have read that, but yet it played so well into all of this, and I had no idea until we were singing that I was supposed to even read that to you. It wasn't in my repertoire today. You can look at my note. It wasn't there. Matter of fact, I even questioned. I don't know. You probably saw it on my face, like, what? Why? You all know my story, so what's the purpose? Because it played into this so well. Okay. Are you a little more encouraged now?
Oh, yeah, it's just,
Still sad, want to go home? Is this where we go?
it just breaks my heart.
Oh, well, yeah, I know.
I mean, I know
I
you
know.
know. I mean, it's so much more tragic for you, but for me, just to
To
see
hear
it,
it. Yeah.
And see,
Yeah.
it's just, it breaks my heart. It
Yeah.
just breaks my heart.
Linda, I've always told people.
But here I am.
I
I've always
know.
told people about how good it is to believe in God because of the trials and tribulations we go through, and we know that it's gonna be all right because of our faith.
Yeah.
And then I say,
Still hurts.
how do those
Yeah.
people that don't believe in God, who go through
Yeah.
this
I don't.
and don't know how to reach
Right,
to some hope?
right.
Without hope,
That, yeah,
you're still lost.
Yeah.
You're still confused. You still feel a hole in your heart, and you don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Some of those people don't make it,
I know. I know.
but we have that hope.
Yeah.
That's when someone passes away, and the first thing in my mind is when you go to a funeral, and the guy that's giving the eulogy and stuff. The way he said up there, how do you know? Did he
That's
die?
right.
God in his heart? You can't say that
Yeah.
just to make the living feel good.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, oh, I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's fine.
with a couple that passed this last 2 weeks, we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're, because
Yeah.
you know them
But
by their
that-
fruit.
But
So
there's the difference, though.
Yeah.
The difference between believers and non-believers.
yeah.
Even though I know my aunt loved the Lord and had accepted the price that Christ paid, she had a lot of skewed ideas
Yeah.
Yeah.
that came from man's traditions.
Yeah.
And so that she'll have to work out with God.
Well, that's also the enemy playing on your sensitive
Yeah.
mind and your sensitive heart because he wants to put down in you and it's done. You gotta let that one go.
For what we know.
He does hold us accountable for what we know.
So what she did in ignorance or foolish words that came out.
Yeah,
How about the man on the cross?
yeah, I know.
I mean, he did no good.
Yeah.
And his last breaths, and he was forgiven. So, God does know the intent of our heart. If her heart was stubbornly opposed to him changing her and teaching, but he wasn't because she would ask questions. She was searching. So, if that heart is there to search, if it's still to learn, we're not gonna
She
know it all.
God.
Yeah,
She did love God. She knew God.
but you can still have things wrong. Okay?
Well, that's
He
fine.
uses
because
us in
none
spite
us
of
are
it.
perfect.
That's right.
And she knew she had to forgive.
Yes,
She
she
did.
did. She did. She knew
did.
she, because she told me that. She
She's
said, all these
really
people were
irritating.
coming, she says, oh great, I got lots to forgive.
See, so that tells you,
Oh,
I,
yeah.
the enemy's trying to take your sensitive heart.
No, my heart hurts for you
Oh no,
Yeah.
and for what you went through, and then John,
that John,
I just,
John-
focus it there.
oh,
Yeah. it
Focus it to John so that you
Great.
pray. So that when you think of that, you
Yeah.
pray for him. Okay, I'm fine.
well, I know you are, but
just- Now.
I'm fine.
yeah.
She ought to know.
I walked through hell with you.
I know you did. I know you did, and that man too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would he'd tell me, come on, let's go for a walk. I didn't want to walk, but I was in such a place that, you tell me,
I
come,
know.
let's go do this. I would just blindly, just absent-mindedly follow. And so he would make me get out and walk. And
Yeah.
you all know how much I love to walk.
Yeah. But
So-
you do it.
Ah! And he'd make sure I ate, you know, and I had a roof over my head. So, yeah,
Yeah.
You
Al
know.
was a blessing, for
yeah,
sure.
you know, he had a room
was
and
God's hand.
this is your room here, this is your keys here, you know, and I had a safe place to go. So, yeah, it was good, God's provision. But you know, hindsight, you can look back and go, oh, but going through it, you're not necessarily going to understand. So all of that to say, let us be courageous, our faith. Okay, I mean, even what I see in this room today, no matter our age, we're still walking in faith. No matter our age, he can still teach us. No matter our age, he can still lead us. No matter our age, we're search me, and it's our will, and we understand grace, we understand mercy, we understand obedience. Well, to the best that we can understand, right? And in the process, we know enough to know that what we don't know is okay. And that was a hard place to get to. Because you know me, I want to know. I search things out to the nth degree. I want to know.
I know.
And it's okay not to know.
Yeah, I've been okay with it for a long time.
I agree. There's things that people question. I'm like, well, God can do anything, so I don't really think about that.
That's right. I know, you know what? I know whom I believe. And I'm persuaded that he's able, right? I know. I know that I know that I know that I know. And what I don't know, I know is though still okay because he does. Right?
Yep.
Job.
Nothing's a surprise to him.
Job knew. He knew who God was. He trusted in his God. So, you know, whatever is coming, I don't care. Oh, I didn't go over the straits, did I? Lordy. Okay, so we're in dire straits. We're in dire straits. That's where the term comes from, dire straits. It's the Straits of Tammuz, and Tammuz is a month, a Babylonian month, and that's where we're at right now. During Tammuz, there are 30 days of mourning, and we're in that time. It started Tuesday, I believe. And it's a time of mourning. It's a time of repentance. And the reason it's a time for mourning and repentance is twofold. One, because of all the bad things that happened to Israel during this time. Anything bad happens, well, not anything. A lot of bad that happens to Israel happens now. The breaching of the walls by Rome, of Jerusalem, the destruction of the first temple by Babylon, the breach of the Temple Mount and destruction by quote-unquote Rome. We say Rome, and you know, when you think of Rome, you think, oh, Italian soldiers. But Rome, what's that word? When you conscript, what's the...
That's what it
Yeah.
is.
Okay, when you conscript the people from different lands. And so they weren't Italians that destroyed the Mount. They were neighboring countries. That's why the hatred, that's why the venom, that's why it was utterly destroyed. But did he not say not one stone will be left? And it was out of hatred. Okay, violence, Hamas.
Yes.
So all of those things transpired. The breaking of, when Moses came down in the calf and broke the tablets, happened during Tammuz. During the Straits, during the Straits means during a tight squeeze, hard pressing. That's what the Straits, between the Straits. It means a tight passage, and it's under pressure, okay? And jagged in one fall. I mean, just the slightest little turn, you're going to get jagged or cut. It's like a boat going through the Straits. There's one passage.
Through the birth canal.
It baby going through the birth canal. Although there's nothing jagged for the baby, but you know, in a boat and going through straits and water and rocks and cliffs, you can easily rip that boat apart. Okay. Also, it was when the children of Israel rejected going into the promised land. And so then they were relegated to 40 years. So there's a lot of, and there's more. There's a lot of things that happened during these times. So mourning for what happened, but also mourning as in mourning and fasting and prayer to maybe stop something else worse from happening. Okay? We know there's a time coming, wars, we know there is. I mean, we still have that war to happen. And the prophets speak of it. Revelation speaks of it. And we're there. We're like so close to there. So take that time to mourn future, to prepare. It's like fueling up before. It's putting oil in your lamp before you need it. It's prayer before you need to cast out. Okay? It's feeding your body before you go and expend the energy. Think of it like that. Okay? And then after that time, then comes Teshuvah. And this year everything's late because there's an extra month, so it's one of those late years. So instead of Yom Teruah and Yom Kippur happening like
He's
in
giving us
September,
extra time.
that's good. Extra time. You're getting extra time for repentance. You're getting extra time to open your mouth and be bold, to pray for souls. So, and then obviously Yom Teruah, 10 days of awe, the 10 days of intense, Teshuvah, whereas those who are in tune with him are going to start 30 days prior, right? 40 days of Teshuvah. And then on Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement, the one day he enters, the high priest would enter in. So, and then there's this 5 days before we get to my favorite one, Sukkot. And it's a 7-day feast, but on the 8th day.
Eternity.
8th day means a new day, a new beginning. So, yeah, eternity. So, anyway, does that help with the where we are, Dire Straits? Okay.
Well,
Our
you just say
times.
Tammuz, and I just,
Yeah, times of Tammuz. Because Tammuz is actually a foreign Babylonian god.
Oh, well, good. See, that's why.
So,
She's not trying to hear that.
well, when they were taken to Babylon,
Oh,
they were there 70 years, and so the calendar their calendar months got a little skewed, and the
Yeah.
name of the months came back with Babylonian names, and the exile or the return from Babylon didn't just happen the one at the end of 70 years. That was the big one. That's when they returned and started building the temple, but they didn't all return. Okay, and there's been Exodus and those coming out since. I mean, even in 1940s, when they were expelled because the UN finally acknowledged, God's country, Israel, they were expelled from Arab lands, and they were expelled from there. So, from all the Arab lands, there were still Babylonian Jews. So, just like there's Jews all over the world still, not so much in Arab countries anymore. I hope that helps. All right, let's do the blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you, you too, and make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you, his countenance, his panim, and give you peace. V'yirekecha Adonai, v'yishmerecha, Yair Adonai panav elecha, v'hunecha, Yisai Adonai panav elecha, v'yeshlamha shalom.